Welcome back. World leaders prayed for peace in Ukraine at the second annual National Prayer Breakfast in Kyiv.
And I believe even right now, there's angels protecting this great nation. And I believe a revival is about to take place like never before.
I thank you, God Almighty. Save Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine.
And that first speaker was Pastor Mark Burns, one of the President Trump's spiritual advisors. More than 1,000 dignitaries, military and faith leaders attended, including Edward Graham of Samaritan's Purse and White House envoy Keith Kellogg, who also took part in ceremonies to mark 34 years of Ukraine's independence from the former Soviet Union. Despite recent high-level talks, Russia says the timing isn't right for a face-to-face meeting between the two warring nations. Turning now to the Middle East, Israel is investigating a deadly strike on a hospital in Gaza. Video from the scene shows chaos. Rescue workers rushing in after the first explosion, surrounded by thick smoke and falling debris. Then a second strike hits the hospital. Among those killed was 33-year-old journalist Miriam Daga, along with others from Reuters and Al Jazeera. The Foreign Press Association says the strikes targeted an area where journalists frequently set up their cameras and came without warning. Israel confirmed it carried out a strike in the area and says an investigation is underway.
I would like to be clear from the start. The I.D.F. does not intentionally target civilians. The I.D.F. makes every effort to mitigate harm to civilians while ensuring the safety of our troops.
Meanwhile, as Israel's campaign against Hamas continues, the IDF also struck Houthi targets in Yemen's capital over the weekend. The strike came in response to a Houthi-launched ballistic missile on Friday. Michael O'Hanlon joins us now. He is a senior fellow and director of research and foreign policy at the Brookings Institution. Michael, good to see you. Welcome. So let's start with the hospital strike in Gaza. Your reaction to that, Michael, and in a war zone like that, how hard is it to distinguish between legitimate military targets and civilians?
Greetings, Jenna. Well, it certainly is hard. And in a tactical sense, therefore, I certainly understand Israel's dilemma. But in a broader political and strategic sense, I think Israel's gone without a serious strategy too long. You cannot simply pummel the place to a point where there are no terrorists left. That's just not going to be a viable endgame. And to the extent Israel has that model in mind, it's going to continue to wind up carrying out strikes that it believes sincerely are going after bad guys, and they probably are, but they are also going to be killing innocent people who are in close proximity. So I think the main missing piece here is to rethink what the political endgame is. And Israel has shown no interest in a two-state solution or in helping the Palestinians build up an alternative to Hamas that could govern Palestinian territories. That's where I would be critical. And then everything else follows from that mistake.
Yeah. We also saw Israel strike Houthi targets in Yemen over the weekend, Michael. What threat do the Houthis pose to Israel right now?
Well, the Houthis have launched missiles towards Israel, and it's not been anything close to the barrage they've used against Red Sea shipping or their neighbors, Saudi Arabia and even UAE at one point. But it's been serious. It's nothing to be taken lightly, and I can't criticize Israel at all for striking back in that regard.
Yeah. So Israel and Syria are reportedly in advanced talks on a U.S.-backed security deal. It could lead to demilitarizing parts of the Golan Heights and keeping dangerous weapons out of Syria. Michael, can Israel trust this new Syrian leadership, or is this just a tactical pause in a long-term threat?
Well, Israel won't trust the Syrian leadership, so we can debate whether they should, but they won't. The new Syrian leadership is quite fascinating in a lot of ways. It overthrew a monster, President Bashar al-Assad, who had the blood of hundreds of thousands on his hands and who was an ally of Iran, an ally of Vladimir Putin. And so I am personally happy for the change, but this new government is relatively weak, still trying to consolidate control. There have been abuses carried out by pro-government forces at times, and we certainly, and Israel certainly, cannot assume everything's going to be hunky-dory and stable on Syrian soil. I think the Trump administration has been correct to explore the possibility of reaching out to this new government to try to induce them to be more inclusive, even though they're run by former jihadists who are very hardline. The good news is these jihadists are pretty anti-Iran, obviously anti-Assad, and I think now interested in governing the whole country the way they were governing up north for the last few years, where things reportedly were pretty good, at least by Syrian standards of the day. So Israel is going to be careful about this, as they should be. But the Trump administration, I think, is doing some smart things by exploring a better relationship.
Brookings Institution, great to have you on this Monday. Thank you, Michael.